So just like his father took a walk in the snow in 1984, decided to resign, Justin Trudeau has decided the sign is on the wall for many months now. There was speculation that he was going to quit or be kicked out or asked to leave, and that's what happened today. Now, Justin Trudeau says he's not the right choice to run the next Canadian federal election, promises to resign as Prime Minister. Now, this article comes from Catherine Tunney and David Cochrane of CBC News. Now, the PM has also asked the Governor General to prorogue Parliament until March 24th, 2025, similar to what Stephen Harper did back in the day, to stop a non-confidence vote while political business need to be taken care of. Now, PM Justin Trudeau says he plans to step down once the Liberal Party has chosen a successor, bringing his time leading the country to a tumultuous end. Trudeau became Liberal leader in 2013 after beating the mother of his half-sister in the Liberal leadership vote. And the Prime Minister in fall of 2015 announced his long-awaited decision outside his official residence, Rideau Cottage, on Monday morning following weeks of speculation and weakened support from his caucus. The father of three, who was recently broke up with his wife, said he reflected over the holidays and told his children that he intended to leave the country's top job over dinner Sunday night. This country deserves a real choice in the next election. It's become clear to me that if I have to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election, Trudeau told reporters. Trudeau also announced that he met with Governor General Mary Simon on Monday morning, and he has agreed to prorogue or suspend Parliament until March 24th. Trudeau's decision will set off a competitive leadership race to replace him and find a contender to take on the Liberals' key rival, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, in the next federal election. Now, the Conservatives have been leading by more than 15 points, more like 20 in recent weeks, but his right-wing attitude, Poilievre, they're not really sure if his support is based on that or based on the fact everybody hates Justin. Now, the 53-year-old Prime Minister said he's already asked the Liberal Party President to begin a robust and nationwide process to find the next leader. Now, the Liberal Party of Canada is an important institution in the history of our great country and democracy. A new Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party will carry its values and ideals in the next election, Trudeau said. I'm excited to see the process unfold in the months ahead. Now, the last election, the Liberals won a minority government, but they were held up in Parliament as part of an agreement, just like the NDP did with the Liberals and Conservatives back years ago. Jagmeet Singh had enough seats to keep the Liberals in power for the last number of years. Now, Trudeau has been under mounting pressure to resign amid sinking public opinion polling, including from his own caucus. At least 24 individual MPs and several regional caucuses, including Atlantic Canada, Quebec, and Ontario, have called for him to step down since before the holiday break. For the past year, Trudeau's maintained he was the right man to take on Poilievre. I am a fighter, and I'm not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one. Now, Andrew Scheer and Erin O'Toole, the former Conservatives leaders, lost to Trudeau in elections, where Poilievre, who was been a pit bull in Conservative caucus, rose up. He is the only really logical choice to run the Conservatives right now, because everybody else in the Conservative caucus has no public persona. Now, Trudeau said it's become obvious to me that the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard in the next election. Now, Trudeau's political future was put in a tailspin when his Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, longtime finance minister and seen as his top lieutenant, resigned as finance minister and deputy PM last month, the day he was scheduled to present the fall economic statement. She was asked to leave their portfolio. In a letter to Trudeau that was subsequently posted to social media, Freeland said she had no choice but to resign after Trudeau approached her about moving to another cabinet role. It was later revealed she'd been offered a position in charge of Canada-U.S. relations. Now, Freeland took a jab at Trudeau's handling of the economy, denouncing in the letter what she called the government's costly political gimmicks. She went on to write that she and Trudeau have been at odds in recent weeks about how to handle the incoming U.S. administration. Now, Trudeau addressed Freeland's bombshell departure for the first time publicly Monday, albeit briefly. He told reporters he had hoped she would have stayed on as Deputy Prime Minister and take on one of the most important files the country is facing, mostly because Trump is trying to levy a 25% tariff. Now, there's bullshit about making Canada 51st state. I mean, logically, Trump is brain dead when it comes to Canada. You wouldn't know a Canadian beaver fucked him up the ass. That's all I can say. Now, but she chose otherwise, he said. In regards to what actually happened, I'm not someone who's in the habit of sharing private conversations. In a social media post Monday, Freeland thanked Trudeau for his years of service. I wish him and his family the very best, she wrote. Trudeau's planned resignation adds a new level of chaos to Canada's response to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's tariff threat. Trump will officially take office in exactly 2 weeks. The incoming administration has threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports, which Trump claimed was a response to concerns about border security, migrants, and illegal drugs, especially fentanyl. Actually, more drugs are brought in from the States to Canada, maybe 50 times as much than any illegal traffic south, but again, all posturing. Now, tariffs at that level could devastate aspects of Canada's economy. Now, Canada has since announced more than $1 billion to bolster border security, but it's not clear whether it will sway Trump to drop the tariffs. Now, the Cons, who have been riding high in the polls for more than a year, have been chomping at the bit for an election and have promised to move a motion of non-confidence in the Liberal government as soon as possible in the new year. However, that plan is slightly delayed now that Parliament is prorogued. Now, prorogation effectively allows the Prime Minister to put a pause on Parliament, which is set to resume January 27th. The government remains in power, but all parliamentary activity from existing bills and committee work has come to a halt. In this case, it also means the Liberals will avoid a confidence vote and gain a bit more to mount a leadership race. It's time for the temperature to come down, for people to have a fresh start in Parliament, to be able to navigate through these complex times domestically and internationally. Removing me from the equation as a leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization we're seeing right now in the House and in Canadian politics. In a statement, Poilievre said Trudeau's decision changed nothing and suggested Liberal MPs who revolted are acting out of self-interest. Now, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who ended his party's agreement to keep the Liberal minority government afloat back in September, suggested Canadians shouldn't support any Liberal leader. The problem is not Trudeau. It's every minister who's been calling the shots, he said in a statement on Monday. If it's every Liberal MP that look down their nose as Canadians who are worried about high costs or crumbling health care. The Liberals do not deserve another chance, no matter who is the leader. Now, again, Trudeau Saint-Pierre swept the power in 2015, pushing a feminist environmental brand while promising to mend the country's relationship with Indigenous communities and resettle tens of thousands of Syrian refugees. The Indigenous file is still a shit show, and the feminist environmental brand is a work in progress. Now his government eventually legalized marijuana, reformed the Senate, brought in various national health care stuff like dental plans, and also revised federal checks. The Canada Child Credit benefit, and is committed to bringing a $10 a day child care. Now, Trudeau's progressive image quickly catapulted him to international fame, landing in the cover of Rolling Stone and a profile in Vogue. Now, Trudeau's Liberals were re-elected in 2019 and 2021, although opposed times to minority governments. Now, his time in office intersected with global news, including the election of Donald Trump in 2016 and the ensuing renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, and, of course, the aspects of the pandemic. Now, Trudeau became a lightning rod for public anger over pandemic lockdown measures, increased living costs, and a mishmash of other grievances. That anger reached a flashpoint in early 22 when thousands of angry Canadians, in an illegal act which is still in the courts, gridlocked downtown Ottawa for nearly a month and blocked border points elsewhere in the country, motivated by right-wingers and racist groups. Now, Trudeau became the first PM in Canadian history to invoke the Emergency Act to clear the streets, a decision that continues to be fought in the courts. On Monday, Trudeau reflected on his one regret in public office, killing electoral reform. I do wish we'd been able to change the way we elect our governments in this country so that people could simply choose a second choice or a third choice in the same ballot. People would have been looking for things they have in common instead of trying to polarize and divide Canadians against each other. I think in this time, figuring out how to pull together and find common ground remains something that's really important for democracies. Now, we have a legislative system in Canada. This is not the U.S. with only two parties. I think we're going to get through this. And if this is American hearing the podcast about the Canadian system for the first time, it works because we've always had good representatives in the more than 300 ridings across Canada. We are not your lower. We are your superior because Canada is the greatest country in the history of the world. If you don't like it, too bad. Find someplace else to comment because the comments will be changed. There is no argument. We are number one. And if you don't think that way, well, I mean, what are you thinking then? Do you think the United States under Trump is number one? Come on. Come on. We have center, we have right wing, center right, center left, and left, plus other parties. Okay? We have 3 communist parties. Okay? But we have 35 Democratic parties, 35 parties that have either representation or people vote for them. Being Canadian is a great thing, and this happened. Trudeau was just there too long, just like your 4-day leftovers after Christmas. It was time for him to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's the latest on the Justin Trudeau situation in regards to Parliament. If you like what we're doing here with our political podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.